Gwalior, the land of kings, emperors, and the landlords. It has witnessed the Tomar, Maratha, and the Rajputana reigns, and is not only a city of historic importance but also a witness to the changing eras from the 1857 freedom struggle to the current technological revolution. The Gujri Palace, the Sun Temple, Moti Mahal, Tansen's tomb, Rajvilas Palace, the famous 6th century Gwalior Fort, the 11th century Sahasrabahu Temple, and the Bandabandi Chhot Gurdwara of the 16th century are the famous attractions of this city. These clearly portray the class, tradition, and the culture this place once owned. These historical places are not mere monuments, but a belief, a heritage, and a message that our current achievements are pillared upon the strong foundations of our glorious past. A live example of this belief and tradition is the narrow gauge train from Gwalior to Shiopur Kalan, a lifeline to some 250 villages, which has recently completed 100 years of its remarkable service. This train is one of its kind and helps the people of the area it runs through to stay connected with the world outside, as no other means of transport is yet available to them. In 1576, the railway tracks were laid for the first time in the world, and the measure of the gauge then was 610 millimeters, and a living replica of the same is running here from Gwalior to Shiopur Kala. But before we start with its history, let's take a glance at its technical details. Narrow gauge measures less than 1 meter, and the 610 mm or the 2 feet gauge is the smallest of them all. It's a matter of pride for us that this line is the longest running narrow gauge train in the world, covering 198.5 kilometers. At the beginning of the 20th century, this whole region was deprived of the basic amenities of life, and the area was famine-struck. At that time, Shiopur Kala used to be the summer capital of Sindhia estate. So, the then Maharaja of the estate, Madharao Sindhia II, decided to connect the area with the railway line, presuming the development of the region and the facilitation in the movement of the armies and the material. This project was completed in 4 phases. The first phase of the project was completed from 1903 to January 1904 by the laying of the track from Gwalior to Jaora. Second phase of the project, that is Jaora to Sabalgarh, was completed by December 1904. Third phase, Sabalgarh to Birpur, took 3.5 years for its completion, since it marked the construction of 800 feet long bridge on river Kunu. This route was opened in November 1908, and the last part of the proposed track was ready to use by June 1909. This train is lifeline to some 250 villages it still connects. The total cost incurred at that time stood at around 1.872 million rupees. The train also had a special coach used by the Maharaja for hunting and by the officials to collect lagan from the villagers. Modern day metro train was hence presumed by the Scindia estate a long time ago. A narrow gauge train used to cover whole of the Gwalior city every day. It facilitated the movement of men and material, and hence trade flourished. Gwalior city still inherits the remains of those stations, the famous ones being Morar, Kampu Koti, Lashkar and Goleka Mandir. With the passage of time, narrow gauge railway upgraded itself. In 1983, steam engines were replaced with the diesel locomotives to enhance the efficiency. Gwalior Railway Museum stands witness to the entire journey of narrow gauge. It has conserved the official documents, darbar policy, account books of the time of Maharaja, rare snapshots of the train and the track, maps, and many memorable objects like the cash boxes. Steam engine kept outside the museum is a testimony to this journey. This museum itself is an example of marvelous architecture and bonds wonderfully with the narrow gauge. Gwalior Narrow Gauge, world's smallest train's longest journey of over 100 years, is still providing its services with the same promptness to the people as ever before. This lifeline covers 27 stations in 10 hours in its entire route from Gwalior to Shiopur Kala. Many of these stations are their only connecting link to the outer world, since roads are absent in these villages, such as 8 stations between Gwalior and Somavali, 4 between Banmore and Alapur, and 7 between Igdori and Shiopur Kala don't have any other means of transport available to them. This train, apart from transportation, caters to the Indian Postal Department, emergency medical, and the agriculture produce of the farmers. The train solely serves many important functions of the people of this region. But whether we should take pride in it or not is a debatable issue. To have a glimpse of the lifestyle of these people, our team, Rajesh Kumar, Arun Singh and Yashwant Gir, went on the Odyssey from Gwalior to Shiopur Kala by this train. Even in the biting cold of January, with fog at its peak, the train is on schedule. We reached the Gwalior station at 5:30 in the morning and the train departed at 6:10 am sharp. This train has a total of 7 coaches, 5 for the passengers and 2 for the railway posts and parcels. It's a matter of surprise that the train is studded with passengers even with the surrounding temperature close to the freezing point. Just after the passage of a few stations, the crowd has grown so large that the newly boarding passengers have to ride on the roof of the train. To further explore the scenario, we conversed with a daily passenger. His name is SP Srivastav and he is a manager with the State Bank of Indore Somavali branch. He told us that he has been travelling on this route for the last 6 years and there is no other possible way of commuting between the places. He also told us that as the weather is very much chilling, the number of passengers is less. Had the weather been a little bit warmer, grabbing a place even on the roof of the train would have been difficult. Be it sunshine or rain, people have to travel this way only, since they have got no other option to commute. We also inquired about the heritage, culture and the occupations of the people travelling in the train. One clearly visible fact that came out of this conversation was that people here lack education and most of the general facilities otherwise available elsewhere. The train is moving at its own speed in the fog, with sun rays trying to pierce through its thick blanket and presenting an eye-catching view. The sun rays falling on the dewdrops is metamorphosizing them into pearls. With nature blossoming everywhere, we are crossing the fields to reach our next station, Somavali. Here, we had tea and the fellow passengers shared their interesting experience with us. We have crossed 6 stations so far and noticed that many people have this train as their only source of livelihood. For example, the groundnut seller, the tea vendor, the samosa and the snack seller, the newspaper boy, and many more, who shared their interesting views and experiences with us. The train has now reached the Jora Alapur station and is overloaded with people. There is a bridge between the Jora Alapur and Sikodra, which is used by both railways as well as the road transport. One similar bridge exists between Kelaras and the Sivaiya stations as well. Kids are having fun hanging on the windows of the coaches without any sign of fear. As we are moving further, the journey is getting more and more exciting. The number of passengers is increasing as the weather is getting a bit warmer. We have reached Sabalgarh via Sevaiya and Pipalwali Chowki, and nearly half of our journey is complete by now. Sabalgarh is the prime station here for the nearby villages for their distribution of goods and services. After spending a few minutes at Sabalgarh, the train moves to the next station. After interviewing a few of the female passengers traveling with us, we came to know that even the groom and the Bharat use the same train to escort the bride. Their own Bharat and Doli use this train, and hence you can just imagine how deeply these people are connected with it. Another female passenger, who is a teacher of a government school in a tribal area, also commutes by this train and daily spends around 4 hours in the journey. She also told us that the kids in the tribal area hardly have any interest in studies, and even the parents are not willing to send their wards to the school. Sometimes they even have to bring the kids from their homes. The residents of this tribal area mainly cut timber from the nearby forests and sell them in the city to make a living, and these kids help their family in the same. To make this journey even more interesting, we are traveling upon the roof of the train among the crowd. The track is beautifully laid with trees on both sides and yellow fields all around, giving the sight that is bringing us closer to the Mother Nature. And here comes the 800 feet long bridge on the river Kunu, which in itself is an engineering marvel. The next station is Igdori. Here we interviewed the station master Mr. Shashikant and his assistant Mr. Harendra Singh Bhadoria and inquired about the availability of medical facilities in case of an emergency. And to our surprise, we found that there is no such facility available on these stations. This matter turns even more serious as there is no other means of transport available from Igdori to Shiopur. People of about 50 villages are solely dependent on this train, and this makes this train even more indispensable in their lives. The next station is Durgapuri, where we have the beautiful temple of Goddess Bhavani. As the legend goes, the officials were facing a serious problem in the project in this area. So, Maharaja Scindia ordered them to construct the Mata Bhavani temple, and with her blessings, things have turned out to be much smoother since then. The train stops here for a while, and the people seek the blessings of the deity for a safe journey. After crossing the next station, Girdharpur, we had a narrow escape from a fatal accident, as some antisocial elements had placed some heavy stones on the track. The driver, being alert enough, applied the brakes well in time and aborted the train from getting derailed. We discussed this incident with the railway department, who told us that such things are often done by the miscreants to pester people. Anyhow, this was ridiculous and deplorable. Now the passenger strength is becoming less and less, indicating that we are getting closer to our final destination, Shiopur Kala. The journey has been tedious but very informative. It has made us even more curious about this unique train. At the station, the train driver, the guard, the station master and a few other passengers shared their experiences about this train with us. We were so engrossed during the whole day that we even forgot to take our meals. End of the day means a start of a new journey next day to seek the answers to some of the queries we have. Next day, we reach the station early in the morning at 5 am. The train leaves at 5:30 for Gwalior, and we are continuing with our curiosity about the area and the train. Passengers have informed us about the lifestyle of the people and their sources of livelihood. It's still so cold here, but the train is fully crowded with the passengers, leaving no portion of the train vacant. The Gram Panchayat elections are approaching near, as we can feel from the atmosphere around us. It is filled with the discussions about the candidates and their credentials. people here take keen interest in the rural politics and the government schemes, as was evident from our interaction with the teachers, panchayat members, and the other people. There is so much crowd that they haven't spared even the engine and the space between the coaches. The best part of the journey proved out to be on the roof of the train with the local people, and becoming a part of their conversations gave us the feel of the countryside. At Jora Alapur, once again we were under the blue sky, managing somehow to get a place to sit. To our surprise, the peanut seller was doing his regular business, jumping and moving on the roof from one part to the other. He was doing all this so comfortably, like someone enjoys a jog in a park. The whole area paints a beautiful picture in the eyes of the yellow fields of mustard, whispering of the cold breeze, with the sun rays kissing our bodies. It really was a unique experience possible only with the Gwalior narrow gauge train. Among the beautiful scenes, the most attractive one was the Gwalior Fort view. Our next and the final stop will possibly answer the questions we had from the very start of this journey, that how this small train has completed more than 100 years of its service without fail, and is still roaring for more. This train is a brilliant example of simplicity and gives the message to the people that it's the perseverance and dedication that matter. And we are proud to be a part of this train. The mission is still incomplete. The foundation laid by the Maharaja Sindhia here 100 years back needs to be revived, as the people here deserve much more than what they have received so far. The technological advancements that the world around us has witnessed are yet to arrive in this area. Atal Bihari Vajpayee Indian Institute of Information Technology and Management, established in Gwalior, is spearheading the fulfillment of the mission that government has of developing the nation in all aspects. The lush green campus, spread in 160 acres of area, is well equipped with the latest information technology, and the excellence and commitment shown by the institute has projected it among the front runners in technology and management. The culture here gives ample opportunities and full freedom to the students to widen their horizons. Just like the narrow gauge line, the institute is also one of the places worth a visit for anyone coming to visit the Tansen city of Gwalior.